helped me to reach 2,000 subscribers. The first note I found was tucked beneath his pillow, folded neatly, written in his sharp, deliberate handwriting. To my future wife, whoever you are, I hope you never stop making me feel alive. At first, I thought it was a joke. A cool one, maybe, but still a joke. Mark had been distant lately, working late, distracted, lost in thought, but I chalked it up to stress. Everyone hits a rough patch, right? Still, the words lingered in my mind. Future wife, not me. When I confronted him that night, I expected a laugh, a sheepish grin, an explanation that would make sense of the storm brewing inside me. But he didn't laugh. He just stared at me with those calm, detached eyes and said, "You shouldn't go through my things, Emma." That was all. No apology, no explanation. Just that cold, measured tone that made my skin crawl. Over the next few weeks, I started noticing more of them, little letters hidden like breadcrumbs leading me to a truth I didn't want to face. One in his sock drawer, one behind the bathroom mirror, another slipped between the pages of the book he read before bed. Each began the same way, to my future wife, and each one grew more intimate. I can't wait to wake up beside you, knowing I finally found the one. I wish I'd met you sooner, before I made promises I couldn't keep. You're the reason I believe in love again. Every word stabbed me deeper than the last. At night, I'd lie awake beside him, watching the slow rise and fall of his chest, wondering who he saw when he closed his eyes. Was she real? Did he write these notes for someone he'd already met, or someone he was still waiting for? Either answer broke me. The house began to feel haunted, not by ghosts, but by the echoes of his secrets. I started searching for proof, checking his phone when he showered, scrolling through his emails, peeking at his call logs. Nothing. He was careful, too careful, and yet everything about him had changed. He'd hum to himself while shaving, smile at texts he never showed me, wear cologne on nights he claimed to be working late. I wanted to scream, to demand the truth, but I didn't, because a small, pathetic part of me wanted to believe this was temporary, that whatever fantasy he was chasing would fade, and he'd come back to me. That's what love does, isn't it? It blinds you until you can't see the knife in your own back. It was a Saturday afternoon when the truth finally cracked open. He was out meeting a client, and I was cleaning his study when I found a small leather journal wedged behind a stack of files. It wasn't one of his usual work notebooks. This one was different, newer, softer, personal. I sat on the floor, my hands trembling as I flipped it open. The first page stopped my breath. A love that's honest can't begin with lies. But maybe, this time, I can make it right. Each entry was dated, each one addressed to her. You make me feel seen. When you talk, I forget the world. I wish I could tell Emma the truth, but she'd never understand. Emma, my name. He wrote about me like I was an obstacle, like I was a mistake standing in the way of his happiness. My throat burned as I kept reading, desperate and terrified, until I reached the last page. Tomorrow, I'll tell her. She deserves honesty. Then maybe, someday, you and I can have the life we dreamed of. The date? 2 weeks from now. He'd planned to leave me, not for some abstract fantasy, for someone real. When he came home that night, I was waiting at the kitchen table with the journal in front of me. He froze when he saw it. "Emma," he said slowly, his voice low, cautious. "Where did you find that?" I could barely speak. "Who is she?" He didn't answer, just exhaled, long and tired, as if he'd been expecting this moment. "I didn't mean for you to find it like that," he said softly. "It was supposed to be private." "Private?" My voice cracked. "You're writing love letters to your future wife while your current wife cooks your dinners and folds your laundry. How private do you think this can stay?" He didn't raise his voice. He didn't beg. He just looked at me with that same unreadable calm and said, "Emma, you and I stopped being right for each other a long time ago. I'm just finally accepting it." The quiet that followed was worse than any shouting match. It was the sound of something dying. 4 days, I moved through the house like a ghost. He didn't hide anymore. He made calls in the open, stayed out late without excuses. There was no pretense left to protect. The final note came a week later, slipped under my teacup on the kitchen counter. I'll always care for you, Emma. But love isn't something you can fake forever. Please try to understand. Understand. That word echoed in my head until it turned into static. I tore the note to pieces and flushed it down the sink. But something inside me stayed whole, cold, steady, watching. He left on a Sunday morning, packed a small bag, kissed my forehead, and said he'd send the papers soon. No tears, no last look back, just quiet relief on his face, like a man finally escaping a prison he'd built himself. When the door closed, the silence swallowed me, and then I saw it, his journal, left behind on the counter. I shouldn't have opened it again, but I did. The final entry wasn't what I expected. If she finds this, it means I've done it. I've ended things the only way I know how. I'm sorry, Emma. I really am. But you'll be better off without the ghost of who I used to be. Ghost. That word chilled me. And then the phone rang. Mrs. Langford, a voice said on the other end. This is Officer Davis. I'm afraid there's been an accident. The rest of her words blurred. Car. Cliffside. Instant. The pen slipped from my fingers. It's been 3 months since Mark died. They ruled it a tragic accident. But I read his last note again and again, trying to decide if it really was. Every night, I find myself reading his old words, the ones meant for his future wife. Maybe she never existed. Maybe she was just a fantasy he created to escape the life he hated. Or maybe, in some cruel twist, she was me, just not the me I became. I'll never know. All I have now are the letters he left behind, addressed to a woman who wasn't me, and the silence he left for the woman who still loved him,